Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star. On today's episode, we have 5 conversations for you. We start in Sauk Center, Minnesota, as we visit with John Stein. Stein owns Center Dairy, a dairy supply store for the past 40 years, and on December 1st, he will be retiring. Next, we visit with the coach of this year's FFA Dairy Cattle Evaluation and Management Career Development Event National Champion from St. Charles, Minnesota, Keith Brogan. Our third story today features a day in the life with the Marshalls, balancing hunting and farming. For our fourth conversation, we feature Travis Teagues, this year's winner of the Dairy Herd Management's Employee Excellence Award. And finally, we finish today's episode with Cadence Hordorf. Hordorf won the Proficiency Award of Dairy Production at the Wisconsin FFA Convention this past summer. You're listening to Dairy Delivery. All dairy, all the time. And we'd like to thank today's sponsor, DRMS. This episode of Dairy Delivery is brought to you by Herd HQ, your dairy decision platform from DRMS. Built on trusted, standardized DRMS data from either your most recent test day or Dart Sync backup, Herd HQ delivers fast, visual insights that help producers and consultants make more informed decisions with confidence. Whether you're evaluating herd trends, fine-tuning performance, or spotting bottlenecks before they become problems, Herd HQ, together with DRMS and your local DHIA service affiliate, makes it easier to uncover opportunities and act on what matters most. It's accessible anytime, on any device. Herd HQ. See what's happening in your herd. Learn more at drms.org/herdhq/what-is-herdhq or visit the link in the description of today's podcast. I'm Dan Walker.
And I'm Michelle Stangler, and we're your reporters with Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers across the Midwest and beyond. Well, I can't believe this week is Thanksgiving, Black Friday, if that's still a thing, going shopping, just a lot of family time. That's what I think about when I think about Thanksgiving. What about you? Got any fun Thanksgiving plans?
Yeah, I'd say Thanksgiving we're planning to get down to, we got 2 Thanksgivings actually back to back. We're going to my wife's family at like 11, and then we got my family at 1. So you got to it's all about portion control, right? And I don't know how we're going to do that with back-to-back Thanksgivings, but probably skip breakfast and probably dinner that night. But yeah, looking forward for some fun Thanksgiving and some family time.
Yeah, and milk, of course, can wash it all down. That's the good go-to for any Thanksgiving dinner, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. Nice ice cold glass of milk. There's nothing better. Nothing hits the spot more.
Yeah, so what else is on your plate when you have Thanksgiving?
Well, I think for Thanksgiving, obviously the staple has got to be, there's always got to be turkey. That's one thing that we're always pretty consistent with. And then I think I'd say, aside from the turkey, you got to have mashed potatoes and gravy. And one of my other favorites that probably should eat more often, or I like to think that I'm eating vegetables with it, is a green bean casserole. I mean, never mind the fact that you're dousing it in cream of mushroom soup and, French fried onions on it, but it does make vegetables actually taste good. So that's one of my favorites. What about you?
Yeah, that sounds really good. Gets me hungry. Of course, the turkey, some buns, some mashed potatoes, but for me, it's always about the pumpkin bread. I try to make it, or did. My Aunt Susie would always give me the recipe. She would make it throughout the year, and it'd be just a fun memory. Yeah, maybe I'll get into baking it this year. It just hits the spot. It makes me think about Thanksgiving and this time of the year, but also during this time of the year, it gets me reflecting as we head into the almost 2026 here. Gets me to think about the question, what am I thankful for? As you think about that, Dan, what are you thankful for?
So this time of year is always one where it's a little bit of self-reflection, kind of think about, exercise a little gratitude, what you're thankful for and everything. And I definitely am thankful for the family that I have, the health and well-being that we have. I got 2 healthy kids that are, ready and raring every day to get up, and they're always having a good time with them. Or my wife's in great health, my family's in good health. Like, all that is all super important things that it's important to reflect and make sure that you realize how special that is, that some people that might be battling some things and maybe don't quite have the same perspective as you right now, but knowing that that's something that you can be grateful for at this point.
I'm certainly thankful for family and friends and those conversations as a young adult, navigating what does life look like. And for me, it's about the people. And I'm really thankful for the relationships, the conversations, especially that we have here on Dairy Delivery and in the work I do. It's just very inspiring just to hear another farmer story and to be to share that. So thank you all for listening. It really does mean a lot. I know I'm thankful for our listeners. Our whole team is grateful that you tune in and you see our content and you share it with your friends. That is one of the biggest compliments I would say for anyone here on our team.
Yeah, I think you hit that one out of the park. Let's get into today's episode.
Well, we're starting today's episode in Sauk Center, Minnesota with Mark Klopacki as he sat down with John Stein, who will be retiring at the beginning of December. He reflects on his time serving the dairy community of central Minnesota, as well as dairy farmers from around the 5-state region.
This is Mark Klopacki at the Dairy Star, and I'm visiting with John Stein, who recently announced retirement after 40 years in the dairy equipment supply business. John, talk about some of your emotions. You let allow your customers know, and just some of the residual from that.
It's ongoing every day, Mark. Just for instance, ran some parts out to one of our customers down by Grove City last night, and he kind of met me in the driveway, and I've known him for a long time. And he already heard the announcement that I was going to retire, and I can't help but tell you the emotions are just under the surface. It's it's an exciting time, but it's a very difficult time when you say goodbye to the people who you've worked with for so long.
John, just talk a little bit about some of the daily workings and some of the customer base of what you've had a chance to cover in the last 40 years. Some of the different areas, some of the different people, the personas.
Oh, yeah. Again, that's ongoing, Mark, because you take a look. Certainly we've worked the 5-state area as far as things, and Canada, where we've done business and repeat business. And that's exciting. It's always nice to be considered. I always ask just that we get asked to the table. Give us an opportunity to quote. Give us an opportunity to show you what we do. And, we've been in all these states providing various services. Sometimes they don't have a local dealer in that area. Sometimes we have the best price. They have to come down, shoot them a price. Like I said, I have a great deal of confidence in our installation crew, a great deal of confidence in the product that we provide. So when I go down, I feel very well prepared and many times very successful in a meeting with people who would be outside of our immediate service area. But we've sold such a host of different things over the 40 years of business, Mark. Everything from very simple bucket systems locally here. Again, remind you that I'm going back 40 years. And then to the most latest on the robotics side. It's been fun. It's always been exciting to touch into the new technology, be able to understand it, and be able to explain it to people so that they understand that that's the answer to the production issue, the management issue that they're facing.
After 40 years, and you've been the owner for the last many years, I think one of the things that you've talked about, and I've seen your eyes swell up with some tears, is, they're customers, but they're more than customers. Talk about how you built that up and how much your customers mean to you.
Oh boy, that's a book in itself, Mark. It's you get to know people for a while. I originally started as a route person, so you kind of come in with a great deal of regularity on their farms. Every 4 weeks you're on their farm. You get to be one of the parts of their management scheme, just like a veterinarian or a nutritionist. So you kind of earn your way into their operation, into their family in many cases. And like I said, you and I visited a little bit, Mark. I use a term that I learned years ago as people buy from people. And once you get a chance to see people, understand what their circumstances are, sometimes it's a quick visit just into their dairy and you can see some things that need immediate attention. Or sometimes it's a little bit more involved in it where you really have to ask them, where do you want to go with your consideration? What's it going to take to get you where you want to go? So you build friendships with these families. You build professional relationships with these families. And you always have to remember that, you're an invited guest, whether it be me as a salesperson or my installation people. You're in their operation, you treat the area with respect, and you do a professional job. And it's worked very, very well for us for the number of years we've been in business.
If you sit back and you think about, you brought up, you worked with buckets, and now so many farmers have robots. You've been in how many barns, milk houses, facilities? I mean, if you just look back and if you had a little biography or little tablet of writing all the different farms you visit. Be remarkable, wouldn't it?
Oh, it is remarkable. I go back to the years, we've seen what do you want to say? There's been an exodus, to a certain degree of the numbers of dairies. Nobody's surprised by that phenomenon. But when I think back into the early years, when you virtually hit the ground running, maybe you had a service call that morning, but then you get yourself into the office and you get situated for the day and you're running out and you're seeing people, you're trying to understand what their issues are. Maybe it's a person whose business you've been after for a long time, but you go about this. But in all seriousness, Mark, what found to be interesting to me, there were times, and this is no exaggeration, where I'd have to pull up to the fuel pumps twice in one day just to refill my truck and head back out into the country. And that's how it was. I remember those days. And it's from morning to night, and you just keep on going. But yeah, as far as the number of places I've been, countless, fortunately. And it's been a thrill. Like I said, all we need to do, all we want to do is just be asked to the table. It's a service call, let it be a sales inquiry, let it be something else, and we're there. And they know who we are, they call to us, and we go out and we represent ourselves.
And what you've done for many years is kind of assortment of things. Just talk a little bit about, you're working with milk pumps and you're working with installing robots or installing parlors. What are some of the other things that are part of your daily routine and drafting those up, some of that stuff?
Oh, well, it's, again, depending upon the size and the amount of technology that has to be done, lots goes into the virtual layout and design. Now, granted, we'll go through dairy design services, which is offered through GIA, where they'll give us a general outlay. And then what we have to do is tailor that to the specific needs of the dairyman. Maybe it's not exactly what he wanted. Maybe the footprint doesn't look right, so it's back and forth till we can dial it in and get it customized to what their needs are. Okay, so now we all agree on how this is going to go. There's always surprises, certain things that have to be fabricated, manufactured on site. So we take those into consideration. Many times it's suggestions. Once we're into this thing, we say, well, maybe something you might want to consider is this, and maybe it's a positioning of a gate or the size of the return lanes or something in the milk house. Does the milk house have to be that big? This is all stuff that kind of comes into play once you're in the particular application installation that come up, and you have to be flexible, you have to be understanding, and hopefully you can draw upon your past experience to make this a meaningful improvement for the end user, the dairyman.
Now, talk briefly about the company will continue to exist and where that's going.
Yeah, as it stands right now, we're obviously in the final stages of negotiations. We'll be doing the closing documents on Monday, December 1st, and that'll be start of business on Monday. We'll be turning over. As far as the situations as it stands right now in early discussions, we will have this presence here. We'll be leasing the facility to the buyer, Leadstone, and we'll run it as we would any other day. We hit the ground running on Monday morning, and it's business as usual. Staff will be here. Phones will be answered, just the way that there were no changes in that respect at all. And I feel, I'm a traditionalist, but if we can have kind of a soft opening, so to speak, so that people can go about their business plan, contact people who they're used to working with, and getting things done. I think that's a good way to start. The long-term goal has yet to be really decided, but as for right now, our location, positioning ourselves where we are, things as usual for the foreseeable future.
Obviously, after putting in all those countless hours working and helping the farmers, there always has to be an end goal and retirement. What does that look like for you? What does John Stein get to do that maybe looking back he wish he'd had a little more time to do in the last 40 years?
Yeah, I'm not going to say there's a lot of regrets, Mark. I look at my wife and how she's put up with so much, and I mean, there's been blessings too. We've had opportunity to travel and do different things, through the business, which we are very grateful for. But as far as time away from here, yet to be discussed. I talk to farmers when they come in, and let's say they've transitioned out of dairying. Maybe they've transitioned to a daughter or a son, or maybe they've just gotten out of dairy altogether. And I always ask them this key question: what's life like after cows? And one guy answered it, and I've been using his response, I would like to have things to do, but nothing I have to do. So hopefully can kind of pick and choose my direction on a day-to-day basis. And, with no regrets that I've lost out on anything, because there is no regrets. It's been dedication to an occupation that I've enjoyed doing for years. It's just that life itself is going to look a little bit different once, I'm not, tied to the rigors, if you will, of running and owning a dealership.
Congratulations on a great career.
What if your test day data could help reduce antibiotics and guide dry-off decisions? In this real case study example, a 2,100 cow Midwest herd used Herd HQ's Decisive Dry tool to support selective dry cow therapy. In just 1 month, they identified 112 cows that didn't need treatment, cutting antibiotic use by 78% and saving over $2,500 in treatment and labor. That's more than $30,000 projected annually. Talk to DRMS or your local DHIA affiliate to start using Herd HQ and act on what matters most. Read about John's career of serving the dairy community under the headline, Closing a Chapter, on dairystar.com. Our next story keeps us in Minnesota as Amy Kylo talked with Keith Brogan. Brogan was the coach of the St. Charles FFA dairy judging team that won at National FFA Convention. A dairy judging coach for the past 35 years, Brogan talked about his experience with his team, including coaching a pair of nieces and a nephew as part of the national championship team.
Tell me a little bit about what were some of your emotions as you're sitting there in the crowd waiting and slowly realizing that they were first.
It's kind of hard to describe. So when they did win, I'm probably sure I saw a few expletives and excitement. I was standing cheering just like the rest of the chapter. It was quite exciting, but they kept moving up, You keep thinking, well, we're getting closer and closer. And then finally, when they announced second, you had won. So it was quite exciting. I don't know how to, it's hard to describe the excitement you have for that.
Well, and just like, as you said, you had been coached other teams that had gone to nationals, but, this being your first team that you're judging at nationals, that had to be kind of special.
Yeah, first time I've been to national conventions in 33 years, so it's changed a lot because that was back when I was in Kansas City, so it's changed a lot since I've been here.
That's cool. And then because obviously you're a big part of the dairy farm, tell me a little bit about how, the dairy farm was surviving while, the kids, I'm sure, help on the farm and you're gone. Like, that gets me a lot of folks away from the farm, too.
Yeah, well, my dad and brother kind of kept it. I hire a guy to breed cows when I'm gone for me. So the former dairy judge always comes in and breeds cows when I have to go. I mean, he does breeding everywhere. For select sires, he just picks up our farm then. And, my dad and brother kind of managed the cows and got what needed to be done here. And I got a lot less other stuff done that they'd like to. And I tried to get as much done as I could. You can do ahead, so you don't have to do so much. And then a few things, you just skip a week on something and catch up this week. And then some of the vaccinations, you can wait a week and do it the next week, things like that.
Right. Yep. Yeah, remember, because I grew up on a dairy farm as well. And, fed calves and milked cows and did the whole 9 yards every day. Well, I would more feeding calves. When I got older, I helped with milking. But, it is like one of those things, like, man, going on vacations about as much, you would do so much work just to get gone, So, goodness. What for you as a coach, what do you think are some of the strengths of this team that you've seen?
I just think how well they work together and get along. I think, that always makes a team better when everyone wants to help each other and they seem to love hanging out together as a team. They just seem to be together and be good friends. And I think that's one of the biggest strengths of any team, when everyone gets along and want to help each other grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's super duper cool. And two, for you, obviously 3 of the kids in that team are your nieces and nephews. Tell me a little bit about what it's like to, not only is it a dairy judging team, but literally these are your family, you're judging 3 siblings, you're their uncle. That's, that isn't necessarily, not many people get to have that opportunity. Tell me a little bit about, kind of that connection with it being family and with it, celebrating as a family.
It's exciting time, for family, because they all, my aunt and uncles and all, I coached for years, so they kind of all shared in the excitement of winning the national title, and even my brother, being older than him, I coached him back when he judged. We were close many times winning state then, but we were second quite a bit, never could win.
Yep.
So it's kind of finally got over the hump on winning the state. And, exciting. I think, sometimes, even for some of the stuff we had to prepare for nationals. It's, things are popping in my head out here in the farm when I'm seeing them, so I could go tell them right away so I wouldn't forget before practice different ideas for, all the book work and team presentation stuff we had to do down there.
Yeah, as you say, like you could literally, like you're all on the farm together.
Yeah, where, I could point stuff out or, it just kind of, that's when they're younger, that's probably easier, I could point stuff out to them, just like, anyone could on a farm. If you're learning to judge when you're around more, you see stuff.
I'll say it has to be, as I said, obviously those kids that aren't from farms have really jumped, feet first into it. But then, too, for them coming from dairy farms has to be, as you say, a positive advantage for, kind of learning that judging stuff.
So I think it is, usually is. Sometimes, unless, being here because I'm the person that taught them, but sometimes kids come from their farms and have bad habits too, just because of the kind of cattle, their opinion of what they grew up with as being a good cow may be different than what the judges are looking for. So,
right.
It can be good and bad, it kind of depends.
Sure, absolutely. Well, so anything else that you wanted to share? Anything else as you think back over the experience? So, yeah, just in general.
No, it's just been a lot of fun. I always look forward to coming to practice every week. I always have for years. What I love doing, so I do it. So, and these guys always made it fun. And even as they've gotten to know me better, I know, a couple were real quiet when we started. It took a while, to get to know who I was, who they were, and we gained confidence in each other.
Absolutely. I know one of the girls, I think it was Avery last night, had said about how often practices were her favorite thing in her week, so that was cool.
Yeah, she started so quiet, and now, you can have a nice discussion with her about cattle. I even joke with her dad about it.
Yep.
I said, I assume this is what you expected. He said, no, not really.
Too much data and still no clear answers? In this real case study example, a 3,300 cow Midwest herd turned information overload into action with Herd HQ. Even with strong nutrition, they didn't realize production and components were lagging or how they compared to their peers. With Milk Metrics and Dairy Depot, they flagged short dry periods and fresh cow issues. One change, improving peak milk, added $135 per cow, or $445,000 across the herd. Talk to DRMS or your local DHIA affiliate to start using Herd HQ and act on what matters most.
Read more about Brogan's experiences on dairystar.com, searching for the headline, Family Takes the Win at National FFA Convention. Our next story puts you in the tree stand with the Marshick family. It's gun deer hunting season this week. Really exciting. But here, Kevin Marshick sits down with Mark Klopacki as they talk about a day in the life of balancing two of the Marshick's family's favorite things, hunting and farming.
This is Mark Klopacki, and I'm visiting with Kevin Marshick. Kevin, there's two things that are obviously really obvious that your family loves to do. One is farming, and one is hunting. You had a chance to go out on that first day with your oldest and your youngest. What was that like for you?
It's always a good feeling for me to go out there with the kids and see their excitement, and just for myself to spend time out. It's my relaxation for the year, kind of, to sit out in the woods. We don't have a lake lot. We don't go camping. That's just something we can do for me to relax.
Farming is obviously just dairy farming, you always have really busy days. How did you fit the day of hunting around chores and what you had to do for the farm?
I start a little early. I don't change my time from daylight savings time, so I'm still on that early schedule. So I just try not to have anything extra to do on the first day of deer hunting at least. And so I'm up at 3:15 to be outside by 3:30 and start my chores. And I think we were done a little after 6 in the morning, so we were done milking, so we were able to go out and sit in the stands.
You're out there with Luke and Addison and just sitting in the stand in your pasture. It must be just a really calming and serenity feeling when you're doing that, isn't it?
Yes, just able to walk from the house and just walk in the pasture and hear the sounds around you, because normally I don't take the time to listen to what's going on. Usually there are tractors running around the building, so it's kind of nice to hear the peace and quiet and the woods come alive.
I know Addison's shot some deer in her life, but talk a little bit about the success that Luke had on Saturday afternoon and just his excitement and your excitement for him.
Yeah, he had a chance to shoot at a doe in the morning and missed it. He was pretty nervous, so that was the end of our morning. Then in the afternoon we went out again, and I was sitting in the ladder stand with him. and I told him there was a deer coming behind my right shoulder, and it circled around in front of us. And I told him to go ahead and shoot it. He was thinking he wanted to get a big buck, and I'm trying to teach him that not everybody gets a big buck, and especially on your first day, you're okay shooting a doe. So he was able to shoot the doe. It came fairly quickly. He didn't have a chance to get nervous and ran a little ways and dropped. So he was excited, and I was excited, and I could just hear his breathing was picking up as he was ready to shoot, and so he was very excited.
To be there for that experience for his first deer, for you, that's just got to be an incredible feeling, isn't it?
It's better than shooting your own deer, I feel.
Talk a little bit about when you and Addison and Luke, talk a little bit about the preparations that you go through before you go out and go deer hunting.
Well, with Luke, this has been his first full season of hunting. We did some target practicing, and I got a different rifle this year because there was another hunter in the family. So he was practicing with that, and he was getting that down. And with Addison, we just don't do a lot either. We get our clothes the night before, just throw them in the garage, and don't do a whole lot of extra, but we get everything ready to go the next day on Saturday. So,
how big is the pasture that you'll go out and sit with your two kids?
At home here I have about 200 acres, so it's a pretty good chunk. There's a beaver. Some beavers have a dam in the middle, so there's some cattails and willows, and then the surrounding woods that other people own. So there's quite a bit of habitat for deer.
And obviously, one of the biggest things is after you get the deer, what's the process after that? Who cuts it up, and what's your favorite food to have from your venison?
I cut it up, so we skin it right away, and I cut it up and on the evenings after I milk in that night, and I do a little bit every day. I make a lot of everything gets ground. Some of it we bring to town and have sausage made or sticks. So I like deer sausage and sticks, and my wife isn't real big on roast or steak, so we'll eat beef roast and steaks, and we'll eat sausage from deer and sticks, and I make some jerky.
What will you remember most about this year's hunt?
I think Luke's first deer, I think will always be memorable. Addison ended up getting a decent buck on the second weekend, just spending time with them. Luke and I spent a lot of time during the week together with Addison. Wasn't able to hunt during the week, so we saw a lot of deer, and he passed on a smaller spike buck and a lot of does and fawns. So I'll just remember the time spent with the kids.
Read the day in the life of the Marshicks on dairystar.com. Our fourth story today has us in Bellevue, Iowa at Holdgrafer Dairy Farm. Travis Tees earned this year's Employee Excellence Award from Dairy Herd Management. Tees has been an integral piece of Holdgrafer Dairy for the past 25 years, as he now heads up the feed operation and servicing of the equipment on the farm. Travis, what did it mean to you to earn that award, and how was it presented to you?
It meant a lot to me, actually, after I thought about it for a while. It was an honor, and basically Trish just came out and told me that she signed me up for this award and that I had won. And I did not know that they signed me up for this until they told me I won.
Right. Because it was Trisha Holdgrafer, and then you said your nutritionist, Samantha. It was those two kind of worked together in the application, didn't tell you about it, and all of a sudden you're told that you won the award. Can you tell the reaction you had, too? Because you didn't want the award right away, right?
No, my reaction right away was just give it to the next guy.
Yeah.
I didn't, it's like, that's going to take time out of my day. And
Oh, you're awarded with something too, right? In December, where do you get to go for the award again?
Yep, Las Vegas.
There you go. How many days do you get to be out there?
4.
4? A little desert sun there instead of spending some time here in the winter. That'll be nice for you.
Yep.
Now, you are the primary feeder and diesel mechanic at Holdgrafer Dairy here. But how has your role evolved over the years? What jobs did you start with, and now what do your day-to-day responsibilities look like?
I did do some milking, and then that rolled into feeding, and then full-time feeding operations, and it just kept evolving. I do a lot of the field work with help, and then I do all of the mechanic side in the winter, engine overhauls and whatever we need.
Yeah, because you went to school for diesel mechanics, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so right out of high school, you went to school for diesel mechanics at, where at again?
NICC in Piasta.
Okay. You were there, that's how long of a program?
It was a one-year program, full year.
Yep, and it got you exactly what you needed, and you've been able to take apart and rebuild as many diesel engines as you want, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. And you've been here for 25 years. What do you appreciate most about working here?
I think the freedom, just the freedom that they give me is great. I mean, and I pretty much make the most of it every time. I know every night, every morning what I'm planning on doing the next day. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot of times where the boys will come to me and be like, well, what are we going to work on today?
Yeah, and say that definitely comes over time with you having been here for long enough and having proved your worth with Scott and Tricia, the owners here. What was that process like of trying to prove your worth? Not prove your worth, but establish that trust, because you've been a dependable, consistent employee for several years. What was it like early, or maybe what kind of lessons did you learn early that have kind of led to this?
I just basically, learned to just do attention to detail.
Mm-hmm. Attention to detail, and we've talked about, just continue to show up, right?
Right.
If you continue to show up and be dependable, you can help build and establish that trust. That's been something that's helped you out. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we also touched a little bit. You had a little bit of a competitive streak on you, huh?
Yes.
What's it like, your competitiveness when you're feeding calves, just amongst yourself? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Like I said, I watch the milk chart every day, and my goal is to get as much milk out of them as can. And I'm feeding them, so I know if they're up or down, it's probably on me. So I do whatever I can to, I want to see the milk chart up every day.
And it doesn't end here on the farm either. You got a little bit of pulling tractor side gig for you a little bit too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Who do you work with for that?
I work with their oldest son, Dominic. He has a pulling tractor, and I do a lot of work on that, and I go to all the pulls with him. Yeah, I'm very competitive.
Good. Has that been a fun experience, being able to manage, being able to partner with somebody you work with on the farm, but also get to be able to get out and go to tractor pulls with and kind of share those experiences?
That's pretty fun time.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to someone who is looking to start working on a farm like Holdgrafer or something like this?
Just the dedication. You gotta be dedicated to it. Show up on time and just pay attention to detail and do your job.
Read about Travis's award and his dedication to his career at dairystar.com under the headline 25 Years of Dedication. Our fifth and final story takes us to Eden, Wisconsin. I had the chance to visit with Cadence Hodorf of Second Look Holsteins. Hodorf is the fifth generation to work on the family farm and recently won the Proficiency Award of Dairy Production at the Wisconsin FFA Convention. She's always been involved in dairy and recently has taken a primary role in helping raise the young stock and has added working with local high schoolers as part of a supervised agricultural experience through FFA.
So my name is Cadence Hodorf. I'm fifth generation to work on Second Look Holsteins. My tasks on the farm include taking care of all the calves and the maternity aspect of the side, and then I help out on different day-to-day tasks also. But my main job is in the calf barn. I'm in here almost all day, and I really enjoy it, being able to take care of all the babies.
So tell me about the start of you helping out here on the farm.
I started feeding calves in 2019. Twice a day I would feed morning and night, and then I started getting local FFA and high school members involved, which was really cool, and being able to have them help along the way and introduce them to the dairy industry. We actually have 3 out of the 5 that I've taught recently have all chosen an agriculture job for their future career, which is really amazing to get them involved in the agriculture industry. And one is currently still working here. She is taking on a more full-time position, I suppose, as she's working more in our calf barn and she's doing a little bit more of the cleaning aspects and some more day-to-day tasks. She wants to learn a little bit more and is super excited.
You said 5 people that you've helped teach. Clarify what that 5 is.
Yeah, so since I started, there were 7 of them that I've actually taught, which was, basically I just was looking for extra help. It's really hard to do everything on your own. So having those extra kids who were interested and wanted to get involved was really, really exciting. And basically just looking for the kids who wanted to work and we're willing to have the odd hours and work on holidays, which is really hard to find, especially in high school kids when all they want to do is go out and have fun and live their life. But I was really, really blessed to have a good group of kids to work with.
How to get them motivated to work here?
Good question. I really don't know how they got motivated. A lot of it was I let the kids name the calves, which I think helps get them a little bit more connected to the calves and want them like a pet almost, want to take good care of them and raise them right.
Now, tell me about some of those tasks that you have here in the calf barn.
So I do bedding of the calves, I feed calves, I treat any sick ones, I do all of the vaccines and dehorning. So it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too.
How did you learn some of those tasks?
A lot of it was through my sister, Cayenne. She was also, when she was my age, she worked in the maternity and calf area, and she basically taught me everything I know. So I got everything to owe to her. So.
And how do you continue to stay refreshed in your learning of, oh, okay, maybe I should learn that or that?
So my boss tends to send us to a lot of PDPW events or just learning opportunities in general to help increase our knowledge and just get us more learning experiences and hands-on opportunities to help us just increase our knowledge and bring all that information back to the farm to help integrate into our herd.
Now, talk to me about this as a supervised agriculture experience. You were active in FFA. Tell me about how this kind of works into your SAE.
My SAE program was through dairy production, which is working on a dairy farm. So it was a no-brainer for me to start filling out an SAE and an application for this area. I've always been heavily involved in the dairy industry from birth. So like I said, it was a no-brainer to just get my hands on and involved.
And so when you started that application, did you start it? Did your advisor say, hey, you should do this?
My advisor really pushed me into joining FFA and getting more involved. So she definitely was like, hey, you need to do this. And I was more hesitant, but it turned out to be a good experience for me.
Mm-hmm. And what did you all have to write about in the application?
A lot of the application is writing about my day-to-day tasks and everything that I do on the farm. It was really hard to start at first, but once you get going, it's pretty easy to keep caught up on.
And how many years have you applied? Take me back to some of the history and then how you've eventually progressed to being the state winner.
So I've been applying since 2021, so 4 years now. And we had a couple kinks along the way, a couple work throughs. My advisor was new to AET too, so it was a learning experience for both of us. But eventually we had gotten used to it and more informed about how to use it, so we were able to get very good at the application process.
Read about Caden's experience with her SAE and continuing her own dairy experience under the headline Farming Now Full Time on dairystar.com. And we'd like to thank today's sponsor, Herd HQ, the dairy decision platform from DRMS. Herd HQ has all the tools you need to optimize your herd's performance, and it's accessible anytime on any device.
Learn more at drms.org/herd-HQ/what-is-herd-HQ. That link will be in the description of today's podcast. Herd HQ. See what's happening in your herd. Well, we have so many more stories in the latest issue of the Dairy Star. One such story takes us to Napoleon, North Dakota. Victor and Logan Wald are a father-son duo farming side by side in the Rough Rider state. They detail how working with family can be rewarding and challenging simultaneously, while also being the lone dairy farm left in the county. Certainly a farm that's continuing to build on their legacy.
And this issue's Our Side of the Fence continues our theme of thankfulness. Read all about what other farmers from around our readership area are thankful for this year in the Our Side of the Fence.
Well, Dan, did you see that airplane crash in Louisville the other day?
I did. It was kind of all over the news a little bit. That was a scary situation down there.
Yeah, and it happened during a dairy show. Our Danielle Nauman wrote a piece about how the flight bound for Honolulu could be heard at the North American International Livestock Exposition. Danielle spoke with the Aves family who was checking into the expo at that time. A shelter-in-place order was given as other farmers were arriving to the expo and had to hold to check in until the order was lifted. Just continues to remind the theme of today's podcast, it seems, the word thankfulness.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it had to be a scary situation down there when you hear the explosion, don't really know what's going on, and all of a sudden there's a shelter-in-place order that thankfully the farmers that were down there for the expo were safe, and the shelter-in-place order was lifted and everybody was okay who was attending the expo at the time. So, and this issue's history section, Amy Kylo took a dive into Minnesota's first cooperative creamery, or at least that's what it says on the side of Clark's Grove Cooperative Creamery Association's building. Her story takes a look back to 1890 when H.P. Jensen set about establishing the creamery with 82 patrons in Freeborn County. Find more stories in next week's Dairy Star newspaper. Then come back to the Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts to hear more of those stories. Make sure you rate and subscribe. And if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, reach out to us at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.